Good morning, Veritas. Today is Friday, June 19th, 2020. It's the last day of school. Congratulations, you made it through 5th grade. This is officially your last day. A lot of kids, since grades closed last Friday, a lot of kids probably didn't complete the work this week. So if you're watching me right now, I'm very proud of you. Your teachers are very proud of you if you're in a different class. Great job continuing to work even though the grades had closed. So thank you very much for being here, getting some extra practice. It will help you in the long run. All right, so you should have already completed these 3 problems. We're going to get started with number 1 right now to see how you did. Okay, Horatio spent $220 on a pair of new Jordan sneakers. If Horatio makes $12 per hour doing chores around his house, then how many hours did Horatio need to work in order to have enough money to buy the new Jordan sneakers? So the question's saying how many hours did he need to work? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Horatio spent $220 on a pair of Jordan sneakers. Horatio makes $12 per hour doing chores around his house. Then how many hours did Horatio need to work in order to have enough money to buy the new Jordan sneakers? So he needs to have enough money to buy those sneakers. So he needs at least $220. All right, so if there's a remainder when we go to divide here, then we need to think about how we need to interpret that remainder to see, because our answer might change. He might need to work an extra hour in order to pay for those sneakers. So let's be careful at the end to make sure that our answer makes sense. So always when you have a word problem like this, especially when you're dividing, you got to think about the remainder and what that means to the problem. All right, so we're going to do $220 sneakers divided by $12 per hour. That's going to tell us how many hours. Okay, so we're taking $220 and we're dividing it into 12 equal groups here. Okay, so let's see. If we have 200s, we can't put 100 into each of those 12 groups. We would need 1,200 in order to do that. So 0 hundreds can go into each of those 12 groups. Now we're going to look at it. We're going to combine those 200s with the 2 tens. So 200s is 20 tens. So we're going to combine it with these two to make 22 tens, because this is the tens place. Okay, so 22 tens, if we were to break those into 12 equal groups, we could only put 1 into each group. Because if you put 2 into each group, that would be 24, because 2 times 12 is 24. We only have 22, so you can actually only put 1 10 into each of those groups. So 1 times 12 is 12. 1 10 times 12 is 12 10, so 22 minus 12 is 10. And since that's less than our divisor, when we subtracted, that means we couldn't put another one here. It was only 1, it wasn't 2. Okay, if this is 12 or more, then that means we could have put another one here. But we can't. As long as this is less than our divisor, we're good to go. So now we're going to combine those 10 tens, or that 100. We're going to combine that with these 0 ones. And now look, we have 100. So if we had 100 and we were breaking it into 12 equal groups, 12 times what gets you closest to 100? You might have to do a little bit of guessing. 12 times 9 is going to be over 100. 12 times 8, 8 times 2 is 16, is 96. So we can put 8 ones into each group. Now 8 times 12 is 96, and when we subtract, there's a remainder of 4. So with the remainder of 4, or 4/12ths as a fraction, because the numerator becomes the remainder becomes the numerator, and the divisor, the number we divided by, becomes the denominator of 12. So if we have an answer of 18 remainder 4, let's think about that. So our answer was 18 and 4/12ths hours. Okay? So how many hours did Horatio need to work in order to have enough money to buy the new Jordan sneakers? 18 and 4/12ths hours means that if he worked 18 hours, he still needs to work 4/12ths of the next hour. So how many hours does he need to work? He needs to work 19 hours. Okay? Because when we divided $220 divided by $12 an hour, we got 18 hours with the remainder. So this is 18 1/3 or 18 4/12 of the next hour. So if he only works 18 hours, he's going to be 1/3 of an hour short. He's going to be, let's see. Yeah, he's going to be $4 or $8 short, depending, let's see. 18 hours with 1/3 more of an hour. Yeah, he's gonna be short money. So he's gonna need a few more dollars. He's gonna actually have to work that 19th hour in order to get this right. So how many hours? 19 whole hours. It didn't actually ask us how many whole hours, so it's really important to think about the wording of the question. But he's gonna need to work 19 hours. If you put the exact answer of 18 4/12, which is equal to 18 1/3 in simplest form, because we could divide 4 and 12. We can divide 4/12 divided by 4/4, because 4/4 is equal to 1, right? We've done this an awful lot. So if we divide that by 1, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So if you put that as an answer for this one, that would be a pretty solid answer. But I just want you to think about how, if it said, what's the number of hours? If he has to work whole number of hours, right, he's not going to come in and work 1/3 of an hour, right? He's going to work another hour. So 18 hours wasn't enough. So even though you got an answer of 18 hours wasn't enough because there's still a remainder of the next hour. So in order for him to have enough money to buy the sneakers, if he only worked 18 hours, he wouldn't have enough money. He would still be 4/12 of an hour short. Okay, so yeah, he would need another 4/12 of an hour. So he's going to have to work that extra hour in order to have enough money. He's going to have to work 19 hours. Give yourself some snaps if you got 19. That was really, really tricky. All right. Now let's go to number 2. 2 more problems left in the year. Let's see. This one says to compute 42 times 5/6. So I'm going to show you 2 strategies for this. 42 times 5/6. We'll do it 2 different ways. Okay, so this is the same. You can always write a whole number with a denominator of 1 because the denominator just tells you how many pieces each whole is cut into. And if there are 42 wholes, that's the same thing as 42 over 1 because each whole is just one big piece. So we can just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So 1 times 6 for our denominator is 6. 42 times 5 I'm going to have to do over here. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21, 210. But now we have to do 210 divided by 6. Okay, so see how this way can sometimes take a little bit longer. Now we have to do 210 divided by 6. So if we had 210 and we were dividing it into 6 equal groups, you can't put any hundreds into each of those groups. So we're going to look at it as 21 tens now. We could put 3 tens into each group. 3 times 6 is 18. Subtract, we have 3 left, 19, 20, 21. It's less than our divisor, so we're good. We didn't make any mistakes. It should have been 3 tens. Then you bring down the 0 for the ones, and we have 30 ones. So we can put 5 ones into each of those 6 groups. 5 times 6 is 30, and we have no remainder. So the answer is 210 divided by 6 is exactly 35. So 5/6 of 42 is 35. That is the answer to this problem. Now I want to show you a different way since we know a lot about the relationship between multiplication and division. 42 times 5/6. That's the same thing as 42 times 5 divided by 6, which is what we did up here. 42 times 5 was 210 divided by 6. So it's the same way. You can look at it like this. You can just kind of extend this line. The numerator is going to be 42 times 5, and the denominator is going to be 6. So here's what we've done just a couple of times. We can simplify right now to make our multiplication easier. Instead of having to come over here and do 42 times 5, what we can do is divide these both by 6. So since 6 times 7 is 42, we can just simplify. 42/6 is the same thing as 7. Okay, so now we got 7 times 5, which is 35 over 1. And look at that. Much faster, much simpler. We get the same answer of 35. But look at the amount of work here. We had to multiply then we had to do long division here. We had to divide, where this, we kind of did the division to begin with, right? We divided here, and then that made our multiplication easier. We could just do 7 times 5, and that's 35. That was a much simpler way of doing it. So it's always important to be able to think when you're multiplying a whole number times a fraction, think about what you know about fractions and the relationship between multiplication and division, because you can just put 42 times 5 as the numerator, which is what we ended up doing here, divide it by 6, and then we divide by 6. So instead of doing it at the end, we can just do it right now and divide that by 6, and we're good to go. All right, 7 times 5, we just have 1. The answer is 35. Give yourself some snaps for that one. Nice work. The answer is 35 for number 2. I'm out of paper, so let me get a new piece here. And here is number 3. Last problem of the year. Here we go. What's the difference between 12 and 2/4? 12 and 2/4 and 9 and 10/12. Okay, so we're finding the difference of 12 and 2/4 and 9 and 10/12. So the difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. So I'm going to make sure that I subtract, because sometimes when you go through all this work of making equivalent fractions and like you do all this work that your mind forgets to subtract and you end up adding. So that's something I used to do a lot, is like I'd get so excited that, oh, I got this right, I know what I'm doing here, and then I'd forget that I'm subtracting and not adding, right? My mind always was one that went to addition first for some reason, right? Some people are the opposite. They go to subtraction first. But I always go to addition first, so I need to just make sure I remind myself. And that's something that I've learned about myself. So you got to kind of learn from your own mistakes. If you did some addition by accident, you got to learn from that and say, I really need to make sure that I give myself a clue to make sure that I subtract. Okay, so we can't do fourths minus 12ths. They need to be the same denominator in order to subtract them. They need to have the same number of pieces. So what we're going to do is multiply 4 to get to 12. That way they'll both be 12ths. They'll both have the same denominator. So 4 times 3 got us to 12. So we have to multiply by 3/3. That way we're not really changing the value of 2/4. We're just multiplying it by 3/3, which is equal to 1. So we're doing this times 1. It's not really changing. It's just going to give us 12ths so that we can then subtract. So the value of 2/4 and the value of this fraction we get, since we multiplied by 1, are going to be equal. So 4 times 3 was 12, so 2 times 3 is 6/12. So 2/4 and 6/12 are equivalent. They're the exact same amount, same value. So now is where we run into trouble. We have 12 and 6/12 minus 9 and 10/12. Now we know how subtraction, the bigger number has to be on top. So 12 and whatever the fraction is more than 9 and whatever this fraction is. 12 needs to be on top. Does everybody understand that? The 12 has to be here, and we're subtracting 9 away from it because 12 wholes is more than 9 wholes, regardless of these fractions, okay? But when we go to subtract the fractions, we run into trouble here because you can't do 6/12 minus 10/12. If I only have 6/12, I can't take 10/12 away. I'm going to have to borrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow 1 from the whole number, and I'm going to turn that to 11. I'm taking 1 from there. So if I can't just take 1 from here, then I'm changing the actual problem. So if you take 1 from this part, you're going to add 1 to the fractional part. So how many 12ths is equal to 1? That way we subtracted 1 from the whole, we add 1 to the fraction, we have to add 12/12 because that's equal to 1. Whenever the numerator and denominator are the same number, that's equal to 1. So we subtracted 1 from 12, we added 1 to the fraction, which makes 18/12. 6 plus 12 is 18. 12ths are still 12ths. Now we can subtract. See how my mind keeps going back to that since I drew those circles there? 18/12 minus 10/12. 12ths minus 12ths are still 12ths. That's just telling us how many pieces are in each whole. 18 minus 10 is 8. So our fractional part is 8/12, and then we do 11 minus 9 is 2. So we have 2 and 8/12. This is a regular fraction, so we don't have to turn that into a mixed number because it's already a regular fraction. So the only step left here is to simplify the fraction. So our answer is still going to be 2 wholes. Our final answer, we just have to divide 8/12 by a fraction that's equal to 1 to make it a little simpler. Because 8 and 12, I always try to divide by the numerator, because if you can, then that's going to be in simplest form, since 8 divided by 8 would be 1. But the trouble is 8 doesn't multiply to get to 12. If you count by 8s, you don't get to 12. So we can't divide them both by 8, so we can divide them both by 4, though. Okay, so since we're dividing 8/12 by 4/4, 4/4 is equal to 1. So we're just simplifying. We're not actually changing the value of this. We're just going to have simpler numbers in our fraction. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, because 2 times 4 is 8. 12 divided by 4 is 3, because 3 times 4 is 12. So we still have 2 wholes, and then the fraction in simplest form is 2/3. So the final answer to the last problem of the year is 2 2/3. Give yourself some snaps if you got it. If you did not get it, where here did you mess up? It's most likely that you tried to just do 6/12 minus 10/12. You might have wrote 4/12 and didn't realize that you couldn't do 6 minus 10. And then that would mean that you didn't take one from here, and you'd have 3 wholes, right? So I want you to find out, where was your mistake? Was it in the whole number? Was it in the fractional piece? Was it in simplifying? Where was it that you got stuck or made a mistake? So the final answer is 2 2/3, and that's it. That's our last video of the year. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you learned a lot. Hopefully we'll see you at the end of August or the beginning of September in school. I miss you all, and I look forward to seeing you. And I will be posting some science videos, because you guys know I like to go out and explore the world. So there will be some cool science videos throughout the summer. So just check out my YouTube page every couple of days or every week or so, and you'll see some videos up there. I'm going down the Cape, so I'll have some videos of the birds hunting fish in the water, and there's lots of cool stuff that I come across and take videos of. So I'll make sure I do that for you guys. So keep your eye out, and have a great, safe summer. Stay healthy, and I miss you guys, and we'll see you soon. All right, thanks. Bye.